So it's always fun to follow someone that just was talking about the Price is Right. So whoever won the Showcase Showdown, I want to meet them. So I think all of us have a goal of being on the Price is Right. So let's kind of dive in today to, gonna have a little fun. So we're gonna talk about a couple of critical things and then we're gonna really get tactical in this session. So I'm gonna talk about what I call the critical pillars that dominate distribution. A little bit on my background, 25-year veteran. The last conference I was at, they called me seasoned, which I thought was a nice way of putting it. Started in electrical, some pretty big names up there, Wesco, Annixter, EIS, Motion, various roles. So marketing, sales, category management, pricing. One thing I would just say in your career, sometimes when you're standing too close to the CEO, you get the job that no one else wants. So having that background, I think, has been critical to understanding, and we got a lot of distributors in the room, understanding what you want to do this year, what you really want to take off. This morning was tariff. I think Omar used it. He asked for somebody to count, I think about 400 times. But I actually think it's probably the most exciting time to be in distribution. So who was in the distribution channel or as a manufacturer in 2001? Could you put up your hand? Okay, all right. Keep your hand up, please, quick. Who was in 08, 09 and 08? Who entered in COVID? Right? Okay. So a lot of the rooms here, being in those times, that was more economic stop, right? Where you made decisions as a distribution leader because the market crashed. I remember in 2008, I was working for a distributor and we were, October it happened. We were going to make $1 billion. We were going to finally get to $1 billion. And we were like, 100,000 short, which for us was a few days. Then the crash happened. We made it to $1 billion. We gave away, the person who gave the order, we gave him $15,000. That was the most celebration I've ever had in my life, right? Because we were condensing, we were closing ranks. We were not being aggressive. So this is different today. I think tariffs are a winning proposition for distributors and manufacturers who view it as an opportunity. We're going to talk about that today. Because if you've got a first cost advantage and a really smart team, you can go out and take orders and drown your competition. We're going to talk about that tactically today. So I'm super stoked. This is the time to be in this business. What I heard from the economists, things may not be great, but it's not 08, it's not 01, it's not COVID. There's still a tremendous amount of revenue to get and take share. So this year is going to be all about taking share. So we're going to start with a quick story, and we'll kind of walk through how we're going to build onto our two pillars, okay? So this is, I believe this, it was taught this 25 years ago. B2B distribution is making orange juice. So how do you grow sales? How do you grow, right? I love this analogy from my old boss, Dick Schmid. Customers are the oranges. We're the distributor, we're making orange juice, right? That juice we squeeze out is the profit that we get out of our sales. So I think it's really important to set it here because there's kind of 6 ways to do it. It isn't just about growing sales, but it's about operational excellence. And I love what I heard from the pricing and rebate side. We're going to dive into that. Because this year, buy side, sell side, price is a weapon, right? For going out and taking share. And I want you to think about that. It would be awesome to be running a pricing team right now because if you're nimble and on your game, your competitor will not be able to keep up with you this year. So I think it creates incredible opportunity. So, went a little bit back. So how do you grow? You grow bigger, I went back one, there we go. Grow bigger oranges, bigger customers. This is also about share gain, right? So customers are not all equal. I don't know of a distributor in the room that's got 100% share of the customers they have. It's either go after bigger customers or grow your share of customers. Pretty much the easiest way to grow in the business. Then it's about squeezing more orange juice out of your orchard. Today, this is big, really the biggest opportunity we're ever gonna have as distributors and manufacturers is right here. Profit increase, pricing, sell side, buy side. This is the time to go out, take share, and never give it back. So I'm super excited about that. We're going to talk about how tactically you might be able to do that in this presentation. You can grow more oranges, right? A lot of distributors in the room. Know a lot of you from way back when. They're kind of going after new customers, new channels. Maybe you're in metalworking, you're going after MRO. Maybe you were a HVAC distributor, you're kind of drifting into plumbing. There's a lot of channel drift and a lot of ways to grow. Very important, but it takes time. Okay? So you can also buy somebody else, buy their orchard. So quickest way to grow, highest risk, highest return. So when you buy somebody, and I've bought many companies and been part of many sales, you know, the sales the day prior and the day after, there's no quicker way to grow. But you've got a lot of risk there. Does the culture match? Can you get your cost out? Can you bring the organization together? Then, the other way, build an orchard in another town. So if you're a regional distributor, moving into new markets. Greenfields are traditionally the hardest way to grow in distribution. It's very, very difficult, tough to turn your profit. It's an important growth factor, but it's probably the toughest way to grow. Then the last one is process excellence, what I call working on your orange juice plant. So when the market is not growing, and it may not be growing this year, how are you going to squeeze more profit out of your business? At the same time, how are you going to take and grow your sales to take share from the competition? Okay? So I think it starts here. Whoever you are in the room, this is what really makes the world go round. So when I was at Wesco and we were in channel marketing and we were category managers, this is the way we really thought about it. Sales growth, right? Unit and dollars, that was kind of our number one thing. Backside rebate performance, you know, I would share in 2008, our rebate might have been our entire profit for the year as a distributor. It is incredibly important. Gross margin performance on your special pricing agreements, your customer specific pricing, I think is really key. So as you kind of look down where opportunities are, and then the fourth one we're going to talk about a lot today, contracted agreements with end customers. Tariffs are going to affect that. It creates an incredible opportunity. I love CSPs and SPAs and customer specific agreements because it is a barrier to exit for the customer and it's a barrier to entry for the competition. So when times get tough, double down, triple down, get as many of those as you can. Because what's the win-win for you? Let's just take a distributor example. I see Mark McGreedy sitting there. It's kind of a square D. Sorry, call yourself Schneider now. Met him 20 years ago. Irish guy, really funny. I'll just share that no matter what, like Kath says or an Irish guy says, someone from New Zealand and someone from Ireland says, you accept it. So they got such a great accent, you accept it. But Mark was really good at helping us as a distributor get special pricing agreements tied to the end customer. So there was a win-win, what I call symbiotic relationship between Schneider and us as a distributor. So we own the price, we own the customer, we were in it together, we were growing together. That, I think, the more of that you can do with your supplier base, or the more as a manufacturer you can do with your distributors, absolutely have to do that. Increase share with must-have accounts. We're going to kind of dive into a Fastenal example on that today because I think they share a lot of really good stuff. How are you going after your must-haves? So when times get confusing and you've got a pricing team and a purchasing team who are under siege with all the changes, you have to help focus on what's most important. Who are your must-have accounts? Who are your biggest oranges you're after? If you don't have that as an organization, structurally, I would ask you to consider it. Call them whatever you want, strategic accounts, national accounts, must-have accounts. Whatever you decide, that is crucial. Share growth versus competition, we're going to talk about inventory, and then at the bottom there, new product introductions. I'm a distributor. I'm going to tell you that I really care about them, but it's kind of at the bottom of the list. It's important, but it's really not important. I'm really concerned at the top 10, right? Let's be real. From a manufacturer side, they need sales. They need expansion of SKUs, sold and stocked. So how do you bring your rebate program in with your pricing program and what I call your buy-side program together in a way that you can meet that objective with your strategic suppliers? So in the room, I won't call anybody out, but who has a tiered strategy with their suppliers where some are strategic and some are preferred? Great, awesome. Not all suppliers are equal. This is a year to double down with those strategic suppliers and grow. If you can show them you can grow, you're going to need that backside rebate at the end of the year in order to run your business. I've been in businesses where it's 40% of our total profitability. There's been years where it's been 100. It is going to be a crucial year to meet your goals. So you're probably going to have to get more important to fewer people. So as we kind of go down the list, I won't go through rebate, payout, you kind of see where that is. It's vitally important for the manufacturer, but it's got to drive growth. If they're just paying you to meet last year's number, then why do they have a program with you? You've got to really think about how you're going to talk about that. And you got to have open and honest discussions about what you're going to do to make your number. We're going to talk about some tactical examples. And then gross margin and gross margin performance are really important. What I think it's an important point to know that manufacturers are much better at controlling their sell price margin and the margin that ends up in the market than distributors are. Distributors are out running and gunning. They're working off of whatever first cost they bought it from. Sometimes they're making good choices, other times they're not. But manufacturers have much better margin control processes. So although it's critically important, they're not as chaotic as a distributor is, okay? So that's kind of what's important. I always like to start there. When you're having a meeting with a supplier, a manufacturer, or you're a supplier manufacturer having with a distributor, you need to come in with the metrics that are important to them in that order. Because I will pay attention to you as a distributor if you understand what's important to me and what my KPIs are and how I'm getting paid. So Flint Fox and Enable, they're kind of talking about rebates and pricing and two key areas. And we're going to talk about now how pricing and other things match up. So Andrew today talked about silos, which I love. Distribution in North America is a very siloed business. So yeah, I'll just ask one more question. Who has the pricing team and the purchasing team reporting to the same structure in this room? Who has it? Ooh, we got to talk afterwards. 2, there we go. 3, all right. Why, right? You're setting price, you're setting sell price off of buy side, your cost basis. I don't care if you're cost up or list down, right? List down, you're just doing a multiplier off of the list, right? Either way, you've got a cost basis that you're setting sell prices on. Why in God's name do you not have these people working together? You have to this year. You have to. That doesn't mean you have to report to the same structure, but if you're making buy-side decisions this year without doing sell side decisions over here, you're probably leaving money on the table. So these are the 7 key areas. And what we're going to dive into next is the big 2 for this year: sales partnership and marketing. So this is when I'm a distributor, this is all the things I'm trying to rank my suppliers on and all the things they're trying to rank us on. Each one of is critical. Each one, though, is somewhat siloed. So how do you grow sales partnership and marketing this year, and how to get more operational excellent? That's what we're going to dive into next. I think it's really crucial to view buy side, sell side, rebate, and sales all functional. We're going to talk about some of the tactics next for doing that. So sales growth is everything. That's distribution pillar 1. I would add to that, though, it's got to have an appropriate profit pull-through. So not all sales are equal, not all customers are equal. It's really crucial that it's everything. And by the way, in distribution, they're the most powerful people in distribution, VP of sales. But you got to have a profit pull-through, okay? And I love this. All good things start from a pick ticket in the warehouse. What does that mean? How do you get more operationally excellent? How do you make that process more seamless for your customers? If you do that, better rebates, better sales, better profits. Okay? This is a visual. I asked him to put this in because my brother-in-laws are all like 6'7" and college basketball players, and that's how the ball looks when I let it go. So that's what I wanted to say. The truth is, in high school, my coach told me I had 2 jobs: pass the ball and foul. So I just thought, I never really saw that happen. I thought I would share that with you guys, for those of you frustrated basketball players like I am. So now let's get into what I call who to go after. Where are you going to spend your time next year? So this is research. David and I do it, Channel Marketing Group. If you follow our work on modern distribution management, business here, and if you read the case studies that we've been doing on Wesco and Watsco and everybody else, you'll see a lot of this in there. So I'd recommend you follow MDM. But you know, all of us have been taught it's an 80-20 business. Not really. For the channels we serve, electrical, construction, industrial, this is kind of the average. It's kind of a 90-10 business, 88-10 business. So the number of customers that really drive you are, you know, it's pretty small. Pretty small. So I would have a maniacal focus on this. So if you see the chart, on average, 88% of sales come from a little more than 10% of customers. 83% of gross margin comes from 10.5% of the customers. So obviously, bigger customers, lower margins. And the top 10 accounts that most distributors serve, 30 at max 70% of their total spend. So the biggest customers are the biggest oranges often for you and your competition. High share accounts with available spend varies by account, by location, by distributor, by channel. But how do you build your, what I call must-have accounts? Your smaller accounts are opportunity. They're actually less opportunity. A lot of distributors pour a lot in their smaller accounts, and I think it's worthwhile to have business development and all that. I think it's really good to feed your, what I would call, funnel. But this year you're under siege. Your people are under siege. I would devote an inordinate amount of resources to the top 10. Okay? Because the top 10, no matter what the market conditions are, can usually move business to you if you're doing a better job than the competition. You can go from a 30 share to a 35 share. You can still meet your sales goals, no matter the market conditions. This year is, to use a Game of Thrones term, it's chaos. You got to think of chaos as a ladder, right? Take advantage of the chaos when your competition is drowning. just keep going, right? There's going to be a greatest opportunity to take share this year than I've seen in probably 10 years. And once you take it, no matter the market conditions, if you're operationally excellent in building barriers to entry and barriers to exit, you will very rarely give it back. So now we'll go real world. I love these guys, write about them a lot. There's a great case study in MDM on it. I love Fastenal, mainly because they're a publicly traded distributor that has done more changes in the last 10 years than anybody else. They have completely flipped their model upside down. And the other thing I love about them is they're just a bunch of guys on the Mississippi River in Winona, Minnesota. And when you listen to their calls, there's a guy up there just saying, hey man, here's kind of how we're doing it, blah, 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 blah. And the investor relations person is like constantly on the call, like, well, you can't say that, right? You hear that audibly. That's what I love about them. They share more information and they're like, so what? Come catch us. They got a hubris about them. I love them. So this is how they're going after customer bucket size. Just grabbed it from their last 5-hour investor summit. Can you imagine being in 5 hours talking about your business? They do an amazing job. Their whole thing is we want customers $10,000 and up, right? Look at that. So look at their CAGR on the 50K plus, 18% CAGR. Dang, man, that's a nice end of year bonus, folks. Look at how they're doing on 10K. Look at how they're doing with that mid-size. That's per month, right? So 5 to 10,000 is 60 to 120,000 a year, right, on average? They're playing the ladder game. They're spending all day, every day thinking about this, and they're using price as a weapon. They're using their backside as a weapon. They're using buy side as a weapon. They're using their sales team as a weapon. They are after it. If you followed them, they've got exemplary growth. They might be the most loved distributor on Wall Street right now, okay? But I love the hubris of this. It's kind of like, hey, come on, right? Come after us. We're going to do everything we can to create barriers to exit with those big accounts. Their whole model is built on going after and getting must-have accounts and locking them in into CSPs, customer-specific pricing agreements, national agreements, SPAs. Everything is about creating barrier to exit and entry, and they're using price to do it. So I love what they do. And think about operationally what happens when you get a customer on a customer-specific price. So we don't know each other, but we've sat down. You're the customer, I'm the distributor. We've worked out a contract. We've agreed that I'm going to sell you a, I don't know, Square D reference, a QO120 for $12, right? Once you know that, how often are you going to argue with me over price? Probably rarely. So operationally, what does that do for you? Frees up your people to spend less time entering orders, more time serving the customer, more time creating orders. So all day, every day, SPAs, CSPs, just do it. So I find this fascinating. When you look at it, you're like, they're saying to the small customer, gosh, I don't know, we don't really want you. When you're on their calls, they say things like, well, you know, when the guy down the street comes in, he just burns up our time at the counter, and we're not really making any money on him. We're going to serve them, but hope that they never come back. Right? Love this line. Just read it. It's just 2 weeks ago from the Fastenal CFO. They've closed 40% of their locations and lost 43% of their account base in the last 10 years. They have had no acquisitions. They have closed over 1,000 locations. For us distribution veterans, that sounds like they're going into bankruptcy, doesn't it? Doesn't it seem like that's a plan to bankruptcy or being sold to private equity, right? They have more than doubled their sales in that same time period. with no new locations, 1,000 less, and they have almost doubled their total profitability. And their gross margin percentage has gone down about 120 bips. So what are they doing? They're using price as a weapon to get more business, right? They're being competitive where they have to be. They're operationally getting so strong that they're squeezing more profit. They're creating more orange juice. They're just getting better and better and better and better. And they are locking customers into national agreements, spas, you name it. I think they're the poster child for distribution right now. Their must-have accounts, over 10,000, are driving the growth. So how are they doing that? I get to write about them a lot. My conjecture is they're certainly doing gap analysis. Does everybody understand what I mean by gap analysis in the room? So let's just make up a product category. Let's say you're selling fluid power in a certain category. If they identify a customer that should be buying X amount or X percentage of their total sales in fluid power, they are identifying that person, hey, they're only buying at 8%, they should be at 15%. They're going out and targeting that. So they're identifying by product group, by product segment, by supplier, where their gaps are. And they're arming their sales team with that information, and they're going out and asking for the business. And they're using price as a weapon, I would conjecture, and going out and buying the business when they need to. They understand and likely have potential sales by customer. It's amazing to me how often people as distributors and suppliers are just living with their own transactional data. How can you make a decision on pricing if you don't understand the potential size of the customer? You may have them priced as a transactional customer, but they could be a must-have customer. And you're pricing them here, you're never going to move them to must-have unless you make some pricing adjustments. The only way to identify that is with potential. Okay? So now we're going to quickly get into the rest of it. Operational excellence helps you take share from the competition, never give it back. Fair pricing, rebates, the right mix of same-day and next-day inventory, special pricing agreements and customer-specific, and customer service. That's it. That's your maniacal focus for 2025. If you can get better in all these areas, you're going to take share. That's my prediction. Those distributors and suppliers in the room that have that focus, they're going to win more often. And if you can present to me as a plan how you're going to do that, I'm going to give you preference as a supplier. I'm going to give you preference as a distributor. So let's get into pricing excellence. This is big, kind of a lot to read, but I'm sure you'll get the slides. Most distributors kind of live at the top, kind of not a lot of data when they're making a pricing decision. Where you want to be is on the bottom. So I love pricing, I've got a passion for it, but you got to get to where you're actually putting some science behind it. The ones who are at the bottom, the Wescos, the Watscos, the Fastenals, the others of the world, they're winning more often than those that aren't. They're going to be at the bottom. They're going to have a lot of data to make better pricing decisions. They're also going to have a lot of data to make better buy-side decisions. We're going to talk about buy-side. So if you're at the top and you got a bunch of seasoned veterans like myself, sales outdoing pricing, you're probably going to be okay for a while until they retire. And a lot of us are getting close. You got to get to where you're going to value-based. I'd love to talk to you more about that. We could talk about pricing for 14 days in here, but I think it's really important for you to think about how you're going to get pricing excellence as a muscle. Okay? So, supplier relations best practice. I believe this to my core. The top distributors are doing. Every team I worked on, this is how we worked it. Kind of got 3 buckets. Scorecards, communication. You've got to play the ladder game effectively. Does everybody know what I mean by the ladder game? You got 3 suppliers in a category, you got 1 strategic, you got 1 preferred, you got 1 that doesn't give you a good backside. Shoot, move the business from the one that doesn't give you a good backside up the ladder, right? You're gonna have to move business this year. You gotta play the ladder game. If it isn't gonna grow, still got a rebate number to make. You know, I can say being on those teams, the CFO doesn't give you any compassion for the market not being there. You gotta make your number, right? Figure out a way to do it. And scorecard and communication. Enable's got some great products there, but it's the process with the solution, okay? Buy side. I go to tons and tons and tons of meetings. I was just speaking at ISA last week. It's just amazing how many people work on sell side, but they don't work on buy side. I mean, Blue Ridge is out there. They're good. They do a good job on helping you set min-max. But what are you doing to manage your inventory? So this is traditionally how you kind of manage it. ABCs. A's are usually your top moving products that make up 30 to 50% of your sales. Sometimes that's number of units sold. Sometimes it's by dollars. Everybody does a little different. B's are your next movers. The way I view A's is that's the milk, bread, and eggs, right, of your business. And then your C's and your D's, you're trying to make sure they don't turn into S's and stagnant, so you get an inventory carrying cost and a penalty. But you're trying to balance that. Most people have about 50% of their items in A's, trying to move them. Another 30 in B's, right? Right now, a lot of people are looking at a model like this where things are slowing. When things slow, A's become B's, B's become C's, C's become D's, D's become stagnant. Most people manage their inventory this way. What is really missing here, in my opinion, is if you're going to go after your must-haves, you have to have your customers overlaid on that. If you're a top customer to me, and I've got you on spas and CSPs on that one chart, if you're over $3 million a year, I don't care if it's a C to me. If it's an A to you, I'm changing it. So I'm never out of stock when you come in. So you gotta have the customer overlay to it. And you gotta look at your customers as their own ecosystem and build process to do it. So if you just do it blind here, and I'm the $3 million customer and we just worked out that deal and you're expecting to pay $12 and you come in and your guys and gals come back and say, you know what, John doesn't have it, you're gonna light me up on the phone, right? You're gonna light me up. You wanted 10 and I had 8, you should light me up, right? Yeah. You have to get this game down. And freeing up, here's the math in my distribution career, freeing up 1% of slow movement inventory usually generates $2 to $3 in additional sales. Your inventory is better. There's less customer conflict. They're happier with their fill rates. Your turns are getting better. Everybody's happier. You've got the right mix of same day inventory. If you're in construction, you gotta have a lot of same day. If you're in industrial, you need a lot of next day. They can usually wait for it, or 2 to 3 days. You have to have an understanding of what inventory needs to be same day, local. Some cases for distributors in this room, that's not a lot. What needs to come from an RDC next day? What can be 2 to 3 days, maybe direct from the manufacturer. So you have to have that cross-coding of all your inventory. Really, it's this. What are your core SKUs, your must-have SKUs, your regional SKUs, your non-core SKUs? Your team on the buy side, frankly, should not be spending any time in that blue box this year because they don't have time, right? Spend your time on the SKUs that matter and do it in a way, it's not letting me go back, do it in a way that matches up to your core focus. So we've talked about customer segmentation here. We've talked about sell side and buy side. And I think it's crucial this year that you really focus on what is the winning two things. Sales excellence and profit is driven from operational excellence. So if I was a business leader in the business right now, I would view all these tariffs as incredible opportunities, and I would use it as a weapon. I'll give you an example. Let's say I got inventory in my system at $5 for an item that I know is going up to $10, and it's an A item, right? I am going to maniacally focus on what am I going to move of that into protected inventory, like before this meeting's over. Does everybody understand where I'm going? So I'm going to move it so that my team can't sell a certain percentage of it. I'm going to put it protected. It's going to be there as a weapon at $5. So when we replace it at 10, I'm going to be able to use it with the right customers to go out at $8 with a blended cost. So how do you use this opportunity as a weapon? I think it's crucial. If you are just straight replacement costs as a distributor, we're like, okay, we're going to base every sell cost on what we got to buy it for. Oh, we might be in trouble this year, right? Because what happens when you get, what were some of those tariffs, 195? I had to leave the room, I was getting sick. How can you win at that basis? So how do you use your inventory levels in a way that allows you to use price as a weapon? And then what I would do, Mark and I were talking about this at lunch, I would go out to my best customer and say, you buy this, it's a double A add-on for you. For this business that you're going to move to me or extension of this contract, here's what I'm going to do for you. I'm going to give you some of that $5 inventory in a blended cost basis, but that comes with a wagon, and that wagon is business. And if you can put the deals together like that, that is building a barrier to exit and a barrier to entry for the competition that is very hard to break. You know, Mark and I were talking at lunch, and back in his Schneider Square D days, they were the best at tying a specific cost or price to a customer, in my experience in business. So you'd like have something that was like $10 into stock in your inventory. Well, when you sold it to X customer, they would give you $5 back. You know, the problem with that was, shoot, right? Devaluing your inventory, there was a lot of issues there. But the wonderful thing was that tied that customer to us for that price. And that gave us a competitive advantage. How do you do that in 2025 is everything. Everything. So I've got a few minutes for questions. Do I have a mic person? Thanks, Dan. Dan and Sky, they're doing a great job back there. Really doing a good job. Why'd the one guy move from Phoenix to Chicago? I don't know. Seems to be doing things in reverse. But anyway, Mark, got a question?
So this year we're probably going to see a huge amount of price increases with the tariffs.
Yep.
Similar to what we saw during COVID. And the outcome of the price increases during COVID was that distributors were more profitable than they ever were before.
Yes.
Can you speak a little about that, and in particular how rebates are used to protect that increase in profitability?
Yeah, I think rebates are really crucial. So it's going to be an interesting year because if costs go way up, right, depending on how the agreements are written, there could be some astronomical increases on cost, right? So they're paying a lot, suppliers are potentially in a position where they're paying for actual no growth. Maybe the unit's the same, but the thing costs twice as much, right? So they could end up in bad situations on the rebate. So I would say, to answer that question, I would really focus on making sure you're having those discussions with your key strategic partners nonstop. So like we used to work together back in your Square D Schneider days. I'd be at Palatine living with you, right? You wanted to go to Medieval Times, which is right down the street, I can go with you. Southwire's here, right? I saw them rolling around here. I'd be in Carrollton, Iowa. I'd be going down to that restaurant that serves you a wonderful breakfast. Might have been the greatest, I'm a Southerner now, so might have been the greatest breakfast I ever had. It got something on the menu called Slap Your Grandma, which is, they told me it's just so good that it makes you want to slap your grandma, which apparently, it is that good, by the way. But I would be like, with my strategic partners, I'd be living with them. I'd be showing them my plan. They're not gonna let me back up. But do you think the suppliers that work with Fastenal, do you think they're talking to them about that plan? All day, every day, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, on the weekend, they are selling themselves as the place to bet. And it's working. It's working. So how do you convey your message in a concise fashion in the channel? I think is everything. That answer your question? Okay? All right. It's hard to see all the way through the room. But I think I'm done. I would just close and say, chaos is an opportunity, and this is the year. This is the most exciting year of my 25 years in distribution. This is it. I say, Mr. Trump, keep bringing the tariffs, right? Keep creating the chaos. Those that respond to it are going to win more often. And when the chaos finally settles and you've got 80% of your business tied up with customer-specific pricing, when the market goes up 12, you're going to get that 12, right? You're going to, once you get a customer locked in with you, you really got to screw up to make them fire you. So I think this is the opportunity to get as many customers tied up as humanly possible and use price, rebates, and operational excellence as your weapons. Thank you very much.